Hey everyone, in this video I'll be taking you through a Paladin build guide for in Solasta 2's early access. We'll be covering both the Oath of Liberation and the Oath of Judgement subclasses here. This will only go up to level 4 as that's currently the level cap here, but I'll be taking you through the best ancestries, backgrounds, spell selections, and everything to get the most out of your Paladin. Now first we gotta address the elephant in the room. The Paladin has had some big changes to say the least in 2024's rule set. Most notably, Divine Smite now costs us a bonus action to use. So we're no longer just gonna be going around smiting non-stop. However, I do think that's a nice change because now we don't have to just focus on saving all of our spell slots for smiting, and we actually get a nice boost to the lay hands here as it's now a bonus action so we can heal ourselves, or if we're frontlining it with our fighter, we can keep them sustained as well. But honestly, from across the board, I do think the Paladin still is extremely powerful in the early access of Solasta 2. We'll be getting into all of that here. So it's a frontliner and a healer. I like the class role focus here. They do feel like a good healer because of lay hands. Now they get most of their abilities from strength and charisma here. And this one does have a hit die of a D10. So every time you level up, that's the amount of hit points you're going to get, plus the Constitution modifier. Now, we get saving throw proficiency in Charisma, and there's actually quite a few Charisma saves in this game compared to if you are familiar with like Baldur's Gate 3, and Wisdom saves, which as you guys probably know are very devastating to get hit with, so it's nice to have the proficiency in that. We do get to choose between a few different skill choices here. I like having Persuasion on my Paladin. It just feels right for having them have the answers to some of the more impactful questions in the game. One thing to note though is that you have an entire party here, so you want to have your skill choices split between your different party members, and as a charisma-based class, I would recommend having them mostly charisma. Another new thing is the weapon masteries, and we get at base a longsword here, which gets the sapping ability. That mastery makes it so the target gets disadvantage on their attack rolls. It's actually really nice for protecting our team. We also get proficiency with heavy armor, medium armor, shields, and martial weapons, and we get to pick a couple spells from the Paladin list, which we'll get to in a moment. The Paladin also gets a healing pool here, which is what they use for the lay hands. This is cool because you can select how many hit points you want to recover on a target. So if you just want to slowly sustain one of your teammates and they only need 3 hit points, you can do it that way, or you can give them like 10. You got full reign over this. Obviously the maximum right now is 20 with the level 4 cap, but that's also used to neutralize poison. So if there's a target that's poisoned, you can remove that from them for 5 of your hit points from that pool of hit points. And the Paladin also gets a Javelin at level 1, which is nice to give them a ranged attack. Now, our Ancestry. This one it's up to you, honestly. However, my recommendations, the human gets the Versatile feat here, which lets them select something like Robust, which will increase their own maximum hit points. You also get Natural Healing, which will double your hit point gain whenever you're rolling a hit point die to regain hit points. Also, Hard to Kill makes it so that when you become stable while unconscious at 0 hit points, you get 1. This also lets you choose Savage Attacker as a human. The human actually is it's versatile. That's exactly what it's all about. They also get to add a proficiency in one skill, and also get the Resourceful Heroic Inspiration. This is great because it lets you re-roll a failed roll. So the human's great. I don't really fully recommend the Halfling, although they do get the Halfling's Luck. It gives a 1d2. When you get a critical failure, you can re-roll and use the new result, which is actually really good. Honestly, all the races are pretty powerful. Also going with the Elf, you can take the Sylvan Elf, which is going to give you increased movement speed, and the Venomous Spike cantrip, as well as 2 different spells you continue to level up. The High Elf gets spells from the Wizard list, as well as Long Strider and Misty Step, so high elves can be quite nice. The dwarves get Dark Vision, as well as an additional hit point with the Dwarven Toughness here, so every level that they get, they'd be plus 4 health at max level for the DLC, for the early access. They also get Dwarven Resilience, which gives them resistance to poison damage and advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the poison condition, and also Stone Cutting, which lets them see. My recommendation, I like to go with a human here. Versatile is great, because again, Savage Attacker is so good, re-rolling your damage die once per turn. Vigilant can mean that you don't get disadvantage on your initiative roll if you're surprised, and you get proficiency in the perception skill. Quick is nice too, because if you want to be a human, you can get increased movement speed, and opportunity attacks will have disadvantage against you. And you can also take like the Magic Initiate here, Cleric, which will give us 2 Cleric cantrips as well as 1 Cleric spell. So I'd recommend a Sylvan Elf, but I personally like the human here with Savage Attacker as their versatile pick. Robust though if you want to have a tankier human, and Quick if you want to have them have the same movement as the Sylvan Elf. Dwarf too, again, if you want more hit points, but the human can kind of do it all. They also get the Skillful here and the Resourceful. Now for our background, the Aristocrat obviously makes a lot of sense here, having the ability to improve ability scores in Strength, Constitution, and Charisma. For these, you can increase it by 3 points with 2 in maximum of 2 in one of these points. You can put all points in all 3 of them if you wanted to, but I actually think that we want to have most of our points in strength and constitution over charisma, which also lets us use something like the wanderer here. Now, this is another way that we could get the savage attacker. So if you didn't want to play as a human, wanted to play as like a sylvan elf, you can then get savage attacker through this means and then put the points into constitution and dex or strength. Another choice is the occultist, which has points in constitution and charisma, and the magic initiate wizard, which lets you use your charisma for the spell casting, and this lets us choose 2 cantrips and 1 spell from the wizard list. This can be cool if you want somewhat of a hybrid, although you do get skills in animal handling and survival, which may not mesh as well as the aristocrat, which is my choice for this one, because insight and persuasion, again, these are things that a paladin would have, and it also gives the origin feat skilled, which lets you get proficiency in 3 skills or 3 tools of your choosing. Now for our ability scores, I would recommend, again, going around strength and constitution. Having high charisma is nice if you wanted to do a little bit more spell casting, and they actually get a fighting style which enables them to do a bit of cleric stuff. However, I do think it's better for us to have a higher constitution score just for our own stamina and survivability, and having a good strength score so that we actually hit our attacks. So my recommended stat spread is this, going with the classic intelligence low on our paladin here. They go in, shoot first, ask questions later. And this would require us to use our special abilities from our background here to put 1 point in strength and 2 into our constitution score. Again, if you want, you could put those into the charisma. Now for our related skills, we got the aristocrat giving us the persuasion skill here for a +4. We can then get our athletics, which will help us when we're climbing, jumping, or swimming to a +5. Intimidation also being great because it's something you use in combat quite a bit. And we also got the insight there, which is not amazing, but for our weapon masteries. Now, I would recommend leaving the javelin on. This will slow a target, which is really nice, and the javelin comes stock with us. Longsword are also a really good choice because we just get a longsword at basic, but the sapping attack is really nice, giving disadvantage on its next attack roll. If you don't like using the javelin, you could throw in something like a longbow as well, as it's going to be somewhat similar. And another choice is something like there's also heavy crossbows, which allow you to push targets, and the great sword. I like the grays, being able to still damage attacker that you miss, but I would recommend leaving it as javelin. And longsword, we want to be using our shield, and then if we need to hit a target from range, we got our javelin. Now we also get our human ancestry additional proficiency here. I like to go, if you didn't choose human, you'd get something else, but deception works really well, especially if you're the face of the party, or kind of focused on that kind of skill, because this will give us additional points to hide the truth with deception checks. Now, another good choice too is if you didn't want to take that, there is also performance, which is a charisma-based skill for delighting an audience. There's no bard in the game right now, so you can be a bardic paladin. Shout out to the very powerful build, Baldur's Gate 3, but deception just ends up being the best choice. Now, we get to choose language proficiencies. I would recommend making sure that everyone on your team has different choices. I have one of the other races in each of my parties, so I have like an elf speaking Elvish, dwarf speaking Dwarven, so I'm wrapping up with the Draconic and Giant here. Now the skilled feed from our background will give us 3 additional skills, so we basically become good at everything at this point. My recommendations for this is taking acrobatics, which prevents us from getting shoved or slipping on ice. Very useful for a paladin who's getting in front lines often. I would also recommend throwing on the performance here to get the +4 to that. And then you could also throw on stealth, even though we're not supposed to be stealthing that much as a paladin. It just does boost up a little bit, and sometimes you're just gonna have your entire party stealthing it. So our spells, I would recommend having Searing Smite's nice for the early game, just for additional fire damage. And you can choose between your smites here, though Searing Smite does less damage than Divine Smite's 2d8, the 1d6, and then additional 1d6 is nice. But I would recommend at this point, one spell that's so valuable is Bless. However, if you're running a cleric, you'll probably have them with this. 1d4 bonus to attack rolls and saving throws. You want to have this up at the very first turn of combat. Extremely useful. I also want to make a quick shout out to Cure Wounds, which is now a 2d8 hit points, which is much better than it was. This is actually a respectable choice because we can use Cure Wounds and then use our Lay Hands charges to do 2 heals in a single turn, making us a very good burst healer too, if you wanted to go that route. Now, we can take Divine Smite here, but we will get it at next level. This is obviously like our spell that we want to be using often because it's Divine Smite. It's extremely powerful. Another good choice is Shield of Faith, +2 to armor class in the early game. Very useful, especially because this is a bonus action. However, I like to save all my spells for Divine Smite. Having Bless is super useful, but even go with a Cure Wounds, again, it's going to save you a few times more than you'd expect, especially in the early game. So you can go with these 2 here. If you want to add additional radiant damage, Divine Favor is nice as a bonus action for 10 turns. It does not require concentration. If you want to go more offensive, it would be using Divine Favor and Divine Smite. If you want to be kind of a generalist and supporter, Cure Wounds alongside Divine Smite, although obviously we're going to be using Divine Smite often. So just to look at things in a nutshell here, we got the Paladin as a human here with the Savage Attacker versatile feat to reroll our weapon attack roll. And then the Aristocrat here, we got basically every single skill that we could ever imagine needing on our Paladin. Now, upon hitting level 2, this is when we're going to get our Divine Smite as mentioned, and we also get to choose a fighting style, and this is actually pretty fun because our fighting style choices will give us things like the Blessed Warrior. This is a new one, which you can learn 2 cleric cantrips of your choice. Guidance and Sacred Flame are recommended, it says, which guidance is so good. These count as Paladin spells, and Charisma is our spellcasting modifier for them. This is great too, especially if you want with like the Magic Initiate Cleric and one with some of the abilities there. I also like the defense choice. Honestly, +1 to AC is always going to be beneficial. Shielding is really nice too, because if you're beside a teammate, you can use your reaction to give them a +2 to their armor class, which is great. You do have to have your shield out to be able to use that. Blessed Warrior is really fun, but defense ends up probably being the best choice just for the increased armor class that prevents you from getting hit many times. And for the next spell that we'll be taking at the next level, if you don't have your Cleric with Bless, you can be the one that applies Bless on everybody. Although, again, we probably want to be using Divine Smite for our actions. And Shield of Faith is nice, too, as a bonus action to boost up armor class. Kind of be a reactive or a proactive way to reduce your team's damage. My choice is going with the Shield of Faith here. Now, level 3 is when we get to take our subclass. Now, the Oath of Judgment returns from Solasta 1. The following spells you get are Guiding Bolt and Inflict Wounds at higher levels, which is not currently available, Heat Metal, Silence, Fear, and Haste. We also get the Weight of Judgment. So immediately after you hit a creature with a weapon attack, we can use our Channel Divinity to make the target do a Charisma saving throw. They'll take force damage equal to our Paladin level and half if they save on it, and become restrained for 10 turns. This is really good. They do take a Charisma save every turn to try and end the effect. Charisma saves are actually pretty challenging to overcome, so this is really useful. You also get the Purge Corruption here. As a bonus action, you can use your Channel Divinity to end a condition within 30 feet on one of your teammates. This is expanded from Solasta 1. It now has Blinded, Poisoned, Charmed, Deafened, Restrained, Paralyzed, Stunned, and Frightened. This is really good because if your target's paralyzed, it's extremely devastating to them. Now, the other subclass is the Oath of Liberation. This comes with Expeditious Retreat, Sleep, Pass Without Trace, Silence, Counterspell at level 9, and Dispel Magic. Pretty strong. It also has the Blinding Castigation here, which you can use your Channel Divinity to blind a target within 60 feet that you can see, and the target will make a Charisma save to end this. You also get the Slip Away, so you can use your Channel Divinity to make all creatures other than you within 30 feet turn invisible until the end of your next turn. This is really nice because it protects your team, and just a little note, this isn't fully done yet. It actually won't make them invisible. It'll cast Blur on your teammates. So as this game gets further in development, that will obviously become invisibility. Now, both choices are good, being able to blind a target or make everyone invisible as a using your Channel Oath, or doing additional damage restraining them and removing conditions is also very good. I think the Oath of Judgment is a slight hair better, especially since these are such common things that you have, and it's a bonus action to remove it. If you have a target that's paralyzed, they're gone. As a bonus action, being able to restore their action and bonus action is huge in the action economy, so I do think that the Oath of Judgment ends up being a little bit better. This also lets us take Bless too if you didn't already take it. As we're a half caster, we don't get really that many spell selections. Divine Favor or Bless is really your best options. And upon hitting level 4, this is the last level for the DLC, you get to choose a feat, and there are a lot of choices here. So it has all the fighting styles: archery, defense, great weapon, shielding, 2-weapon fighting. There's also the ability score improvement, allowing you to increase one ability score by 1 or 2 by 1. Now, the Eager for Battle feat here is actually pretty solid because you get an ability score increase of 1. You also get to roll for initiative and add twice your proficiency bonus to the roll. So at this current moment, it is only a +2 at the current level, but at next level, if we get to level 5, it would be a +3, so 6. And then you also get increased 10 feet of movement speed. That is really solid. There's also Flawless Concentration, which will give you a +1 to Constitution. That's amazing. It also gives an advantage in Constitution saving throws to maintain your concentration, and you automatically succeed in Constitution saving throws to maintain it when taking 10 damage or less. Kind of similar to how the Circle of Stars Druid works. There's also the Follow-Up Strike here, really good. You get to increase strength by 1, and you can do a bonus action follow-up attack that'll deal an additional 1d4 plus strength modifier damage, which is kind of cool after you do a weapon attack. Although we do have a good bonus action, so that's not something we want to use. Now, Throwing Expert's really interesting. This will give you a +1 to strength or dex, allows you to do a throw at long range without getting disadvantage and at close range. But the dual throw is cool because whenever you do an attack action with a thrown weapon and your other hand is free, you can perform an extra attack as a bonus action using that same weapon. Again, we don't really want to use up our bonus action. I just thought this is a nice one. Unstoppable Force is also really fun. Whenever you push a target with shove or to push weapon mastery, it's increased by 10 feet, and also you get an additional 1d4 bludgeoning damage per 5 feet increased push damage. That's really cool. So I'd recommend Eager for Battle, giving us a +1 to an ability score of our choice, and the boost to our initiative and increased movement speed. This is a really good feat selection, but also it's hard to go wrong with the good old-fashioned ability score improvement. There's also a bunch of different creeds here which give you saving throw proficiency, but we don't really need that on our build. So ability score improvement on our strength is a good choice here to give ourselves an increased hit chance, which is very much needed at the early levels. And then for our next spell, if you didn't take a divine favor or shield of faith, that'd be the one to go with, or bless. Now, equipment is kind of hard to give recommendations on because it's so random, but having a longsword and a javelin seems to be the best choice. And obviously the highest armor class possible is always going to be good. But again, items are so random. But when it comes to combat, our role as a paladin is kind of twofold. We're not just a striker. In previous iterations of the paladin, they're just divine smite, but things are a little different this time around, where we want to be focusing on keeping our teammates sustained. It's kind of a team battle here. So all my teammates are doing fine for health, so this is not a worry for me. But if we did need to heal somebody, you could always go ahead with your paladin powers here and use like your lay hands charge. You got that pool there depending on your level. It's gonna be 5 per paladin level. And with our subclass, we also have the Purge Corruption here. So again, you want to be looking out for your team. If there's someone that's like paralyzed, you're going to have to protect them, obviously, or even Charmed, because Charmed would be devastating against the team. So once that's out of the way, our next choice is what to do for offenses. So the Paladin, having obviously very high burst damage with their Divine Smites, wants to do their Divine Smite. So I'd recommend saving our bonus action for that if possible. You can go ahead here, of course, a critical miss. My luck, I've gotten so many critical misses and only 1 critical hit so far. We'll try that again. I got hit with an attack, so I have a lot of health to survive it, but potentially use lay hands on myself. The great part about this is you can choose how much you want to heal yourself for, so you're not going to overexpend your heals. I'm just going to go again with another Divine Smite, and are you kidding me? And they have no problem hitting me. Probably should heal myself, but we're gonna go ahead with another attack here. Finally, all right. So the Paladin also gets a free Divine Smite. They get once per long rest, which is great. You can also use your spell slots here. There's also the Weight of Judgment here, so we're gonna go with that, dealing additional 2 damage. Woohoo! Wow, amazing roll. I really want to take this target down, so I'm just going to go with another, hopefully, Divine Smite here. Perfect. All right. That was enough. 13 damage. Didn't even need the Divine Smite, of course. But now if you have the shielding fighting style, you can find a target to protect if you have that active, because we got our shield up. Otherwise, you can always just switch to your javelin here and throw it at him. Not good. My cleric is down. Again, that's something that's going to happen often in this game. That's why it's nice to be able to protect our team. But we can always go ahead with our Divine Smite. Now, you'd want to restrain a target if they're like you're off by yourself and they're just a melee target there. Didn't get the kill there, but let's see. Can we get it again? Boom. Oh, no. Here's an opportunity, though, to use Lay Hands, because we didn't get our bonus action Divine Smite off. We can then use this to heal, and it'll only let you use the maximum amount you need to heal yourself, which is great, because you're not going to overexpend any of your heals on that. So, very useful. All right, this will be it. Yeah, we don't need to use this because he has 4 hit points left, and it's not very likely that we're not going to kill him with that. So, yeah, 15, yeah. Don't use it. You have to think ahead with that. Oh, and hell yeah, I got better armor. Now here's a situation where we actually can't reach this target, and that's why we have our javelin there, so you can throw it at them. It's going to do piercing damage and slow the target. And we won. Nice. So there's a Paladin build for Solasta 2. Let me know in the comments if you got any questions. Hit the subscribe button below if you found this useful, and I hope you guys all have a great day.